On PM Express tonight, it's a major story has been trending over the last few days. This bombshell report by Professor Frimpong Boateng, who used to be the Minister for Environment and chaired the Inter-ministerial Committee on illegal mining. There's been a lot said about it. Tonight, there's some action finally. SHRAJ has confirmed they received the report, a petition that they are going to be looking into. They are going to be looking into to establish a prima facie matter and then determine if they should go forward or not. Tonight, we're going to look at, so what action could really come out of this? This is not the first time we've heard allegations, counter-allegations, as far as politically exposed individuals are concerned in the fight or engage in the actual Galamsey or illegal mining. This is the first time, however, that we're hearing from a former minister, a man who chaired an inter-ministerial committee that the president himself put together. So how much weight should we put on what Professor Frimpong Boateng had said? But most importantly, what should happen on the back of this? And would anything change from everything else that we've heard? I'm bringing in the guests who understand this. Dr. Ken Ashigbe will join us. He is, of course, a convener of the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining. We'll talk to a former secretary of the Inter-ministerial Committee on Illegal Mining as well. Charles Bisu will join us. And then we'll also bring in the ranking on the Mines and Energy Committee for a conversation. Please stay with me after this. My guests have joined us now. In the studio with me is a former secretary to the Inter-ministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, Against Illegal Mining. Charles Bisu is with me in the studio. Also joining us on Zoom right now is Dr. Ken Ashigbe, and Dr. Ken Ashigbe is the convener of the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining. We'll be joined by the ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee, who is John Jinapor. And remember that a minority have stated that they will, once Parliament resumes, be pushing for a bipartisan probe into the allegations made by Professor Frimpong Boateng. As of tonight, another minority member of Parliament for South Dai, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekbo, has filed a petition with the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice. SHRAJ has confirmed, when he spoke to me on Top Story, the SHRAJ commissioner himself, Mr. Joseph Wotal, that they have received it and they are giving it attention. They've already opened a preliminary probe into this to establish a prima facie case beyond which they can decide whether to open a full-scale probe or not. So there is some movement on these matters. But let me bring in Ken Ashigbe. I don't want to bore you with the details because I'm pretty sure you possibly have heard a lot already if you're watching us tonight on this particular subject. And so let's get straight to what we've learned. Mr. Ashigbe, so let me ask you, I mean, we spoke last week about this when this thing first emerged. We've seen the various developments. Professor Frimpong Boateng has had cause to write 2 separate rebuttals in which he discloses even more detail, the one relating to Gabriel Serchedako and then Kojo Nkrumah. And then now today, as I've just been intimating, SHRAJ has received a petition. The NDC at the press conference also wanted the special prosecutor to get involved. Give me your reaction to what has transpired since this story broke with the leakage of this report.
Well, thank you very much, Evans, and good evening to my brother in the studio and as well as your viewers. I think I'm still disappointed. I'm not too sure as a country we are taking these issues as seriously as it ought to be. This is somebody from the belly of the whale, who has made very, major revelations. And, we've not really seen any movement to this particular one. And apart from Parliament that we've heard from, the CSOs, we've not heard anything from all of them. They're taking too long, to respond. And if you look at some of the current data from the theater of the illegality, it's, the impunity is continuing. I've chanced upon some report on the water quality in the Ankobra and the level of heavy metals that are in that. There are two patients that I know, one that is dead, one that is still in the hospital, and the level of heavy metal that are in their blood. You know about the reports that came from, about disfigured babies and all of that. And the fact that even our water body is threatened. So I think that we need to be a lot more angrier as a country so far as this particular, canker of the illegal mining is concerned. This is a report that is about 2 years old, and we've not seen any action from the executive. Thank God, Shraj has said that they are going to deal with this. I was also hoping that by this time, the special prosecutor, and then the lawyers need to correct me, whether he could not also have taken, on his own volition. I don't know whether he needs somebody to petition him before he acts, but definitely in that report that has been put out, there are corruption and corruption-related activities in there. And so you're hoping that some action, would also have been taken from that particular scope. But I think it's fair game for those who have been named, to issue the rebuttals. And I'm happy that the professor is also responding to all of it. But you see, this would only be settled when we actually have some proper, independent, very inclusive investigations.
Yeah, I mean, please stay with me. I think you've just scratched the surface of something pretty significant. And I take notice of the fact that you made the point that the civil society groups themselves have largely been silent on this very explosive report. Maybe people have fatigued by all these because people knew this was happening, and people sort of get to the point that nothing really happened about this. We just play political football with it and let it go. So stay with me. We'll come and interrogate that in greater detail. But let me come to Mr. Bisu. Mr. Bisu, I wanted to drill down to some of the specifics because you were one time a secretary. Frimpong Boateng was your boss. One of the most alarming aspects of the report has to do with the activities of the CNG Alaska and Imperial Heritage. The reason why I'm isolating that, we actually, here at JoyNews, had actually witnessed this firsthand. Your team took us there to one of the raids. And my colleague, Erastus Donko, captured all this on tape. In fact, when they got in there, it's a very fascinating report. They got in there with your team, empowered by the president, and they found soldiers who had also been sent there to protect the mine that was doing illegal mining. An officer of them called a person, and this was on loudspeaker, so you could hear the senior officer on the other line ordering them. They actually eventually overpowered your team. We know that's the company.
No, that was after I.
That was after you.
There's been other raids as well.
You also led one raid.
Yes.
This is the same company that Gabriel Sojako had now said he used to be a lawyer for and had called the minister. What do you know about the activities in the forest reserves and the extent of destruction? Because that seemed to be one of the most serious sticking points in this report.
Okay, thank you, and good evening to your listeners and Dr. Ken Ashigbe. And then I think you said John Jinapo is also joining us.
Yes.
Okay, I think, during the time of the IMCIM, we did a lot of work together. And I think the job that Ken did was good because it kept us on our toes. He was coming from a divergent view and all the time.
And it's good to recollect that there was a groundswell of support. The kind we haven't seen before in 2017, 2018.
Exactly.
The entire media organization was marshaled in support of that effort that the president launched.
Exactly. So at that time, you could realize that the Inter-ministerial committee was very vibrant because you had people looking into what we're doing. Now, I am also disappointed, first of all, in Professor Frimpong Boateng.
Why?
Because things that my question is that would he have come out with or this report? I'm not sure if he was the one who leaked it. Would he have done it if he was still a minister? And the things that
But because we're not sure he leaked it, then that becomes a moot point, is it not? Because
no,
this,
it's not moot. I mean,
considering that
no.
this was with the president since 2021,
So it wouldn't be the
nobody
presidency.
knows who exactly leaked it, but it's become a public
So
subject.
the point I'm trying to make is that, yes, during the time that he was the chairman, he could have dealt with these issues. I think most of them were done. I mean, the report itself, the substantive part is correct. Okay.
Substantive part is correct.
Yes.
Okay.
But the reason why I'm disappointed in him is that he also had people working for him. So I'm looking at a country where we all want good things for ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we actually hide behind the cloak of actually having that credibility capital. And the masses are not aware of what we do. And then behind the screens, we do things to actually the downtrodden. Now, I'm also disappointed in Kweku Baako.
What has he done?
Okay, so I'm going to enumerate all that. Because if we're building a country and things that we want to do that we want them to inure to the benefit of this country, then whatever we say, we must actually adhere to them. And then I'm not privy to the conversation between Gabi and Professor Frimpong. The names that he's mentioned in there, that's what I'm saying that I'm disappointed in, because if we're mentioning people who are doing that, I do not know the names that he mentioned that they were doing. He should have mentioned the people that he's been working with, because it's all led to a point where the Inter-ministerial committee was bastardized. Now, I'll give you a chronology of events. You see, CNG Alaska.
Yeah.
The directors of CNG Alaska, Starpoint, Heritage Imperial, they're all the same people.
Who are they?
And I mentioned, I think in 2018, when I was the secretary of the committee, I mentioned one Donald Njia. And then I mentioned
his name is in the report.
Yes. So I'm not going to mention names outside of the report. I'm going to mention names within the report, because then I was the secretary and I knew the things that were going on. And I remember I granted an interview to a radio station. I said, these companies are exploiting the country. Because within that country, we have a company called Unique Star Point, okay, in the Prompama Forest. Unique Star Point, I think in 2017, December, applies for reclamation license, okay. And then for mined out areas. And then in 2018, Heritage Imperial applies for what? Prospecting license on the same concession. So what are we doing to this country? So we, when Kweku Baako called Prof, I am privy to that because Prof informed me as a secretary that he had a call from Kweku Baako, and that Kweku Baako is saying that each time they go to cabinet, Prof seemed to be hard on CNG Alaska and Heritage Imperial, and that they are his friends, and that he would want them to come and see him. I think they arranged 4 p.m. the next day or something like that. I had traveled to, I traveled out of Accra, and they went to meet them. When they went to see him, the documentation that they brought, prospecting license, and per the drone footages that we have for the areas, CNG Alaska, which is DSO, and then all that, they don't actually told us that they were actually mining. And then basically we have everything that I'm saying is based on evidence, because we had the drone footages and all that. Because if you're prospecting for gold, you do not send about 20, 30 excavators there, do you? You do not fell all the economic trees and all that. So when we went there, I have the report that was sent to the committee. Now, when the report came to the committee, after Kweku Baako has spoken to Prof and he sent them away, the committee sent me to go to CNG Alaska's site, and then Aprampamaso, which is the Corroborating Forest, in December 2018. Following that, I sent about 30 journalists. So this thing happening to this country, it's not just politicians. I blame journalists, chiefs, pastors, and everyone else.
Yeah, but stick to the line. So
no,
you.
No, is it because I mentioned journalists?
No, not at all. I mean,
So I'm giving.
I think it's established that a lot of people are complicit in this matter.
Exactly.
There's a reason why the war is not
very
being
difficult.
won. It's very difficult.
Yes.
So you're not.
Following that, I sent 30 journalists, about 30 of them, including Erastus, to go and then take a look at our forest reserves. We were going to come out with a documentary so that Ghanaian populace can see what is the devastation.
And we did a lot of documentaries on that, actually.
Yeah, but it was only Erastus who came out showing it, out of the over 30 journalists.
So that you actually confirming that's for JoyNews. We stuck to the task.
I'm talking about, okay.
Yeah, that's JoyNews.
So then in December 2018, prior to that, Crusading Guide started bastardizing the IMCI. Okay, so you can see that from when the IMCI started working and the things that we're doing, we're given a mandate, and the mandate was to stop illegal mining, and then we go to a site and then we see people without the right documentation and we stop them. Then a newspaper belonging to somebody starts hitting us, and that person calls Professor Bombshell and says that these people are not.
By the way, for the avoidance of that, Mr. Baku has written extensively about this, and in his write-up, he says yes, he did 2 calls, which lasted 4 minutes, 25 seconds combined, resulted in you kindly referring to Professor Bombshell, you kindly agreeing to meet the 2 gentlemen, represent the company, and the reference at 4 p.m. in your office. So, so that's what you said.
So then after that,
during my call to you, I explained to you the purpose of the meeting. You had scheduled for them in your office. I told you that the 2 gentlemen, one of whom, Donald, which you mentioned, was a personal friend,
Simon,
intended to brief you on the consistent invasion of the company's concessions like Galamsey's since October 2016. I also informed you about their claims that you were trying to get Cabinet to suspend or cancel their legitimate lease for large-scale mining, and to dispel rumors that their concession actually belonged to Ibrahim Mahama. I remember telling you that they would be presenting relevant and authentic documentation to defend their case. I also promised to send you reports and documents I had gathered on Galamsey operations since August 2016. So, and I personally was not present at the meeting, so he didn't come to the meeting. So in other words, what you said is what he's saying that he did.
Exactly.
I mean,
so
but
I haven't said anything. No, but then I'm saying that. So Crusading Guide.
What I wanted to say is to impute a certain, ill motive to the call. He was calling to he was called a secret of it.
Are you saying that I am impugning?
No, I'm just saying that for the people listening.
Yeah, but I'm just giving you chronology of events.
Yes, so just to say that it tallies with what you said.
Exactly. So, and then 2018, I'm asked to go there. And then February 2019, the announced documentary comes out. Okay. Now, when we went there, Heritage Imperial, we went there on the 10th of December. 11th of December, that's when they applied for EPA.
So they didn't have the required documentation
they did not have
to
EPA.
Be where they were and what they were doing.
They did not have EPA license.
So that is a corroboration of what Frimpong Boateng had said in this report, is it not? As far as this company is concerned.
Exactly.
That they were actually acting and operating illegally in the forest.
Illegally, yes, exactly.
And if you're acting illegally as far as mining is concerned, then you are Galamsey because it's illegal mining.
Okay, Galamsey is not illegal mining, it's gather and sell, but illegal mining. You see, illegal mining.
I get what you mean. There are dynamics that are different.
Exactly.
But illegal mining is broad.
Yeah, but if
but they were doing illegal mining in the forest.
Ken said something that we all need to look at it holistically. And I'm giving you an example of a person that we all know in this country calling, and then a newspaper attacking the committee, and then a phone call is placed, and then committee sends the secretary to go there. We see that they are actually mining illegally. The day on the 10th of December that we raided that concession, then they apply for EPA on the 11th. Subsequent to that, EPA writes to them and fine them $12,000.
So they were actually fined?
Yes, they were fined by EPA. Everything, I have a report on that. So all I'm saying is that to deal with the Galamsey menace, it's not just the government. You understand? There are civil servants, public officers, and all that, because all of us must actually change our attitude in this country.
But I need to ask you before I bring Ken in on the point that we left off on. You were the secretary.
Yeah.
Frimpong Boateng was the chair. Now, as far as these 2 companies are concerned, and they were central, because they were mentioned in terms of the work that they did in destroying the environment, you corroborate the Frimpong Boateng report. But so when you...
Not all of it.
Not all of it. I'm isolating
and
just...
the timing of it.
I'm isolating just that bit.
And the timing.
Which you corroborate. And yet when you hear the president say, quote, in the statement that was issued recently on the back of the revelations, that not a single piece of evidence was adduced or presented to enable the claims to be properly investigated.
No, it's then the presidency is talking about the people that have been named.
No, but he's talking about the report, right? I mean, at least you're saying that for these two companies, that's why I isolated them. Because
Yes.
a lot of it, the personal and name mentioning,
Exactly.
it hasn't been proven.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't want to go there.
Exactly.
People's reputation are at stake.
Exactly.
But you're saying here that there's documentation to actually prove, at least for these two companies,
Yes.
they were engaged in something that wasn't
But
legal.
this company doesn't come from the presidency.
I know, but my point is that at least for these two companies, the owners
Yes.
and those who were behind it
Yes.
should have been prosecuted. Is that your conclusion
So
as well?
no, but let's not. You are saying that the presidency is saying that the evidence
Wasn't enough.
Okay, so
But you saying there's
no,
enough
no.
evidence at least for
Evans,
this
Evans,
company
no, you don't-
for you to nail them.
No.
At least start a prosecution.
And I'll still go back to what you said. So the presidency is saying that the people that you have named that are into Galamsey, there's no evidence what. And then in my statement, I said that I was not privy to the conversation between Prof and Gabi, and the other 5 or 4 that he mentioned.
But that's why I say that I don't even want to go to the individuals.
Yes.
Because as for the individuals, it is Frimpong Boaten's word against
them.
theirs.
Yes.
So that's why I'm staying off that
Yes.
now
Yes.
until it's investigated.
Yes.
But I'm talking about what you have corroborated
Yes.
about these two companies.
And that company, I mentioned that the company was fined $12,000. So the state,
in fact, that strengthens my question to you.
Yes.
That at least on that evidence, why haven't we seen a prosecution of these two companies and those behind it?
that's not for me to answer. Okay. But then
are you not disappointed that hasn't happened?
No. Can I finish? Those agencies, EPAs, they are creation of parliament, and they have their rules and regulations. Okay, so if they were able, they went ahead and fined them $12,000, then maybe it falls within the confines of their rules and regulations. True. Okay, so all I'm saying is that our institutions should work, and the presidency. And let me reiterate on that: the presidency is saying that evidence as to who is doing Galamsey, that you need to prefer. But my point is that those companies and journalists saying that these people are my friends, where you say there are documents to support that, and we know back in this country, he comes out with documents.
Yeah,
and then what I have here, I've given you dates.
Yeah.
So the time that he was asking them to go and see Prof, couldn't he have checked those documents?
Okay, stay with me. Let me bring in.
And then further to that, then later along the line, I heard him say that there was a judgment that looming of $50 million pertaining to these same companies. Then Attorney General has to go and then
which became
overturn
a
that.
subject in court.
Exactly.
etc.
So
I mean, those
if you look at the events and the dates that I'm giving you, then we need to look at that. Then it's not just the government alone.
No, you've made the point about collective, but let me bring in Ken. So when I put that statement that was issued back to you, which I was asking him, at least it corroborates the issue with these two companies. And Ken, you followed us, you watched the documentary, it's pretty horrific. So when the president says in response to everything that we've heard, that no single piece of evidence was adduced or presented to enable the claims to be properly investigated, you agree with him?
No, I do not. I do not at all. You see, the point about it, the issues about people being named, I'm not too sure they are the major part of this particular report that have been issued. In that report, the professor mentions the fact that a cabinet directive that was given was completely flouted.
Yeah.
Who are the people who are flouting this? This is a committee that the president himself formed and, inaugurated. And for this particular committee again, the minister talks about the fact that, apart from 2 other ministers, the rest of them abandoned them. So the whole conversation about the governance of, around this thing, it's something that really needs to be looked into. Who is it that is flouting a cabinet directive? The work of the Forestry Commission. I can tell you, as a matter of fact, when we were investigating this company, that you're talking, Heritage Area.
Yes.
We wrote to the EPA, we wrote to Minerals Commission, and all of that. Their EPA confirmed that they did not have a permit. And the fact that they were doing mining. It's even go and look at their lawsuit that they brought against Erastus. In there, they did not talk about their exploratory activities. They talk about their mining activities. So these are people who, on the face of legal documents they've taken to court, are confessing, to a crime because they don't have the EPA permit at the point where this issue had been raised. And you see, and all of these things, what have we seen being done about them? So I would, very humbly disagree that, you see, in the face of the gravity of the challenges that are, before us, we should not be measuring the minors. Those issues can be dealt with when an investigative body takes them up. But what are the things that the professor has said? Even currently as we speak in this country, we have the whistleblower's law. That even when you go and blow the whistle, it need not be official. You might not have a transmittal letter accompanying that. We will take that because of the gravity of it. Are we saying currently now that if somebody wrote a report to say that there were terrorists, attacking at any point, we were not going to deal with it? We'll say, oh no, it was not an official document. What these people are doing, these criminals who are involved in it, and I agree with, my brother Alex, because even in that document, there's a journalist who is mentioned. He has even written a statement in that. So there are a lot of people who are involved in it. But what we need to be seen to be doing is that those of us who are cloaked with the power who have to deal should be dealing with the issues that are confronting us. And this is a grave thing that might take us all out. You remember today, the statement that was made, it was the same professor at the launch of the media coalition about his encounter in Cote d'Ivoire. If we are not okay, we are still polluting the Cote d'Ivoire waters. That could bring some conflicts that we're not ready for, and we're talking about, we are not even accounting for billions of dollars. We are out there at the IMF begging for $3 billion. Whilst gold is so, you see the gravity of the challenge that is confronting us. I would not think that, the presidency should be saying that the document did not have a transmittal letter and all of that. I think we need to take it with a lot more seriousness and find ways of dealing with it and dealing with the people who are involved in this.
Yeah, I mean, and you make a point. I want to track a certain chronology. You remember the president asked the CID to investigate a recent interview that Frimpong Boateng gave to GTV, in which he alleged that people at Jubilee House, the president knows about it. Apparently, he was referring, now we are wiser, right? He was referring to this report that the president had all along. Yes. But the president was interested, the presidency was interested in the CID investigating his claims when the presidency already had the document in which he had detailed, We haven't seen a referral, for example, of this report to another agency for investigations, which hasn't happened. The president could have easily done a referral to see the special prosecutor. He could have done to SHRAJ, even a CID to say, investigate. But that hasn't happened. Does that surprise you?
Well, you see, so again, we would want to give them the benefit of that to say we don't know. But those are the things that we would want to see. That when such, because this is a report from what the professor said, that the chief of staff had asked, yes. That he does, and he presented this report. So you would want to see some actions being taken, and and you see sometimes you look again, so there's a statement from the presidency. I would want to separate it from the president himself. The president sees it and says that some investigation to be done, and somebody from the presidency issues that particular statement. But we need to be seeing the president, who has consistently said that he's ready to fight this thing, be a bit more forceful in dealing with this issue. Evans, are you surprised that, since the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources referred to Akonta mining of being involved in an illegality, and I have seen ample evidence, it's the same way as the Heritage Imperial, of the fact that what they were doing in the forest reserve was mining, and they did not have a permit to do that, and that is an illegality. That is a sin against the Minerals and Mining Act. What has happened? The CID is supposed to be looking into that. What has happened to that? The former DC or MC for Bosome Freo, who was caught on tape confessing to a crime. What has happened to that? You see, till we start going after the supposed big people, and it's not, and I agree with, Mr. Bisu when he talks about it's not only people in government. Anybody who is involved in it, including Kenneth Ashibe, if I am found to be involved in it, so we start going to after these people, the fight is going to be difficult because the people on the ground see it and they know that the people who are buying the gold from them, who are, financing these things, are very highly connected people. And we're not doing anything about them. So how dare us come back to them and come and ask them that, why are you engaging in this particular, illegality? So I think it is important for all of us to decide. We should draw a line in the sand and say, at this particular point, we are going to go after everybody who's involved in it. My prescription, and I'm not a lawyer, is the fact that beyond all the special prosecutor that should be looking into it, strike that should be looking into it, we should have a national independent body made up, with bipartisan representation, with some professionals, with some CSOs, with even the media involved in that. But before we get into this, it is important that we can get the government to commit to say that when this committee that we have set up as a people come up with their report, we are not going to have a white paper issued to rubbish it, and we're going to implement it. I don't know what the legalities are. We should ensure that whatever committee or commission we set up does not then become burdened with the fact that because you've gone before the commission, you cannot be prosecuted. So we need to clear all of these things and make sure that the systems that we've put in place are actually working, because we are in a crisis.
And to that point that Ken makes, why, and you have said, and he agrees with you, that so many people are involved in this, politicians, etc., pastors. I think you use a pastor.
Journalists.
Everybody's involved in it. Why, if that's the case, why haven't we seen prosecutions? Why haven't we seen the state throwing the book at people and getting people? What is the problem?
It's our attitude.
If it's so obvious, why haven't we done that?
You see, our society is such that one commits a crime, and then by the time the person is reported to the police station, somebody else calls the person that released him. That's our attitude, you see. Because Ken is talking about prosecutions and all that. We'll keep asking these questions to the point that one day we're going to ask that, what is the name of God's father? I don't know if I'm making sense. Because the things that they're laws for us to follow. But then it gets to the point that we set the laws aside and then use our own attitudes and behaviors to actually maneuver. You see, I've mentioned Kweku Baako, the way things have gone. And
why do you keep mentioning Kweku Baako? I mean, he hasn't done anything apart from call somebody. I mean, I want us to. You've mentioned that enough.
Evans,
I'm asking you a very substantive question.
So if you allow me to.
No, finish. But we've talked about that quite extensively, and I've read his statement on it. I think we should let that be for now. And let's focus on the big. And that's what Ken was making. I agree with him. We shouldn't major on the minors. Let's focus on the substantive matters. Everybody agrees.
So you see
that there's a.
But I'll still make my point. I'll still make my point because
involved in this.
Evans, I'll still make the point.
I want to tap into your expertise. When you were the secretary, right, you wrote a report. The Attorney General was involved in some prosecutions. Yes. Why didn't these prosecutions see the light of day and lead to successful prosecution and convictions?
I'm making a point. I mentioned him, and I'll still reiterate. You see, if we're in a society and we're doing things like that, because I'm actually stating something that if Kweku Baako comes in and says that he has all the documents, and then various institutions in this country, he's able to pin them down and say this is wrong, and then people actually, he speaks from that position of authority, then these things, we should also hold him responsible. Because can I finish?
Baako is not an elected officer, he's a journalist. I'm asking you a question about in your capacity as a former chair.
So you're defending a fellow journalist?
No, I'm not defending a fellow journalist. I'm just making a point that he has no prosecutorial powers. So regardless of what he says, it doesn't change the fact that this government has the power to investigate. The president has chosen not to follow through when people are known to be involved.
But if you allow me to make a point, because there's something that I have to say. You see, if that person is able to talk about other things, why not this one? That's the point I'm trying to. So it's not about prosecution.
But that's not the question I'm asking. I'm asking a separate question.
I
don't want us to get fixated on one person.
I'm not.
You appear to be very fixated.
No. You see, let's
address the bigger point.
No, you ask me a question.
Yes.
If you allow me to, then you leave the viewers to understand what I'm trying to say. Because
I think we understand the point.
You're not. I mean,
I think we understand the point. Let's address the bigger question I'm asking you.
So you see, that's the way we do things in this country, and then we jump at the back of people that we know, and then the truth is not said. Because if he's able to warn the president to be careful when this Galamsey expose came, and this is the very thing that we're talking about, these are the points I'm making. So if he allowed me, I would arrive there. Because when that matter came, he even told the president to be careful. Now, let me move on. You see, to deal with this problem, that's some of the problems that I am trying to enumerate.
What is the problem with the prosecutions? I want to
Prosecutions
understand
with that, for me, I'm not a prosecutor.
Is it because there are too many powerful political players and influential folks involved, and that's why the system is crippled when it comes to illegal mining?
No, but it's our attitude. I mentioned it because that politician is there, that police officer is there, the special prosecutor, for example, he's a friend of Anas. Okay, so when a matter goes there, he will try to deal with it in a way that would benefit the friend, and these things have been going on in this country. So I'm saying
that's not fair comment. I mean, they ask for the special prosecutor on this matter. You cannot say the reason why my point I'm making about fair comment is important, and we know that the special prosecutor has a case pending against yourself,
and I've taken him to court. But that's not the
so that's why in your own interest, it's not a place you want to go in dealing with these matters, because this is a subject of a court action. I'm asking you, based on your experience with the Inter-ministerial committee, okay, what did you observe to be the challenges that prevented you, for example, from getting results?
Some of the examples, experiences are what I'm trying to say. And
people get it in the way of
exactly.
doing your job.
So I'm giving examples, and then you are not allowing.
Let me ask you. But those examples also has to be fair, and I don't think that.
And they are fair. So what about the person that is being met? Because that's affected the progress of the IMCI.
Let me ask you something you said to the police.
Yeah.
You told the police that Frimpong Boateng himself had associates who were involved in illegal mining.
Yeah.
Today, the Shraj has received a petition. The second part of the petition.
So that's not fair from Frimpong Boateng as well, is it? You would not allow me to talk about somebody that has been appointed by the state. Yeah. But you want me to talk about Frimpong Boateng?
No.
Then that's not fair on him too.
Listen to the question. Listen to the question I'm asking you. Listen to the question I'm asking you. Today, Shraj has received a report, a petition. And the second part of that petition has to do with that allegation that you made.
Okay.
You've made it on radio. You've told it to. What do you make of that petition that has gone to Shraj? And Shraj have told us that there's something they're going to investigate. They possibly will be inviting you.
That's fine.
Are you willing to cooperate with that investigation based on your pronouncements?
I'm ever ready to cooperate, so long as it is in the interest of the country. You see, that statement in there, the CID should have that report, and then the NIB should have that report. I think this will inure to the benefit of this country. So I am ever ready wherever I'm called to go to. But you asked me a question, and then...
So you cooperate with Shraj in that investigation?
I cooperated with the special prosecutor until now that I've taken them to court. So these are experiences that if you allow us to talk about... But we are talking... We spent the last 48 minutes... I don't want to individualize and personalize it. No, I'm talking about the big issues. But so we spent a lot of time talking about it, and I don't want to personalize. I told you categorically and repeatedly that for the individuals, I don't want to major on that minor. But Prophet's an individual too, isn't it?
That is why my question was about the Shraj probe and not what he had alleged, because that's a big point. The Shraj is investigating your allegation, which will lead possibly to a bigger outcome in terms of resolving this. That's what asking.
So the ones I'm saying are also in the public domain. I've already stated them, so saying them here, it's actually trying to...
I don't want you to repeat them. I'm asking you about the Shraj's work.
Evans, trying to mention them is actually educating the public as to what the happenings, so that we do not go back there. So you allow me, because if I
allowed you,
and you're asking me about my experiences at the IMCI, and I'm saying, I'm enumerating them to you, that these are some of the challenges. You understand? For example, CNJ Alaska,
which we've talked about extensively.
We have. And then there are other companies.
Do you believe, as it is now, Shraj has triggered investigations? I mean, not Shraj itself, but there was a petition. The NDC also today asked the special prosecutor to step in. The minority says they will ask for a bipartisan probe in Parliament. Do you believe these three, if all of them kick in, will help resolve the challenges that you were exposed to when you were the secretary? Or you believe that may not resolve the problem?
Unless, of course, we all change our attitude and stop shielding people. So if that is going to happen, and then we do it, it's going to be moot when we do not change our attitude and actually speak the truth. that this person said this 2 years ago, and we believed in that person. And then that person, we see that person at fault today, and we are not allowed to mention that person, and we're not getting anywhere.
Okay, so you believe that parliamentary probe, the Shraj probe, and possibly the special prosecutor probe may not get proper results?
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, yes, they're going to do everything that they are supposed to do. But if you and I do not change our attitude, we may not get the results. Because then it's going to come out, there's going to be reports, there's going to be recommendations, and that person or those people who are supposed to ensure that that recommendation is met will be compromised somewhere. They'll have friends in there, and then cronies and all that. So they will not see the light of it.
You make an important point. Let me put that to Ken. Ken, I mean, beyond the not wanting to personalize it, but he makes a point that I think is worth interrogating, which is that the reason why this fight has failed so far, there is a network of individuals across the board, really, who have persistently made it impossible, even for state agencies that really want to do this, to get something done. And then until that network is dismantled, you can't expect any real results from these three agencies. And to put that in a bigger context, the previous government, under my good friend Inusaf Husseini, started this war. They didn't quite succeed. This government had also started, they have failed. Is there something bigger about this, our entire society, maybe, that is making this war an impossible war to win?
See, Evans, there's a reason why I am a believer in what Professor Dai says, that leadership is cause. Everything else is effect. What we need to, and go back and read my very first article that brought to bear the media coalition. It is because leadership has failed us. You know, we are not going to expect, and unfortunately, let me bust Mr. Bisu's bubble. We are all not going to change our attitude. But leadership would have to demonstrate, you know, that we really are committed to solving this problem. And Evans, I don't believe that if we really wanted to solve this problem, we cannot solve it. I think, I don't know, I believe, Evans, you and I have been at this, and I'm pretty sure they've come at you in various ways and shapes. You know, that people who tell me every time, you know, stop talking about this, you know, you're putting yourself, you know, in danger and all of that. You get all of that. But we all need to realize that there's a higher calling that we are all called to. And I completely can hear Alex, Mr. Bisu, when he talks about that. You know, bear in mind, he's giving a chronology that shows that Anas's investigation of him came when he went to a particular place. You know, so that's the reason why we need to really investigate this and do it very openly. But I agree. Another thing that has to happen is that a lot more of us than just you and I and a few other people, Erastus and all, need to be committed to this particular cause. We need to start. And I think one of the things that we should do as a media coalition is to start also bringing civil suits against people who have to act who are not acting, including companies like Akonta Mining, like Heritage Imperial, like, people, the Forestry Commission, people who have to act, who are not acting. I think the time has come for all of us to decide that we need to push to make sure this thing happens. For me, I think the next election, we should be asking people concrete reasons, what are the concrete things they are going to do to ensure that we deal with this. I think we should be going to the IMF and we should go into all these our donor partners and asking them to also ask the government, what are you going to do about this? That if you have billions of dollars being whittled away, don't come to us asking for pittance from us. We need to make sure that we get the coalition of the willing, all of us putting pressure to ensure, otherwise this thing is going to eat us up. And it is true. The criminal elements involved in this, there's a lot of money, they have a lot of resources. So they marshal all of that and they push that. And sometimes our political leaders become pawns. And if we allow them to become very strong, what they will do is that they will buy the entire system.
Yeah,
and then they will start.
And when CDD did this report, we found the illicit, campaign financing flows. Part of it comes from illegal mining, and maybe that's a big part of the problem. But I need to ask you a point that you touched on earlier, that there's a sense that civil society itself has been pretty dormant on this subject, even since this report came up. I bet you're possibly the sole civil society lone voice in the wilderness screaming on top of your voice on the back of this report. That must frustrate you.
Well, sometimes I sit back and I think that this is a charge that we have to keep. And, if you have some, but it is frustrating that, we are not hearing people speak up as they ought to do. And I'm inviting the Catholic Bishops' Conference. I'm inviting the Chief Imam. I'm inviting the Christian Council, the Pentecostal Council, all of these bodies who really supported us, that the time has come. This is the right time for us to ask, draw the line in the sand. And I think it's important. We need a lot more media houses taking this document and actually going into them and making sure that we are focusing on getting change. The most important thing is that we need to get change. We need to decide. All these DCs, MCs who met the president and gave a promise. Is Galamsey still happening in their country?
And you've advocated that the president should make that part of their KPIs. If you don't deliver, you sack them.
The MPs, is Galamsey still happening in their constituencies? What are they doing? The chiefs. So I think that, yes, civil society, and it's not only civil society, corporate Ghana needs to also get involved. And let's say that we all need to support ourselves. If we leave it to only the politicians, the civil servants and all of that, the power, the wealth that these people have, they will not be able to resolve it. Even if you remember, very early in this fight, there was a guy called Bronzy or something. He dared the president. We went to report to the then IGP, not this current one. You know what the police told us? They said we should go and find Bronzy one and bring him to them. These attitudes have to change. How is it that we know that chamfans have been declared illegal? About 50 meters to the police head office, the police station. There's somebody manufacturing that there. Yeah. So what is happening? So we need to start holding local leaders also accountable and say that there are things that you need to be doing. And sometimes I think we inadvertently just focus on only the politicians and allow
the neglect of those who are actually destroying but Charles, do you honestly believe this war will ever be won?
Yes.
You believe it will be won?
Evans, you mentioned that this government has failed. The government hasn't failed.
In the fight against illegal mining?
Because
they haven't?
No, this government hasn't failed.
Really?
You know why? How many years do you have empirical evidence to support when Galamsey started or the illegal mining started?
It doesn't matter. The president, let's start from 2017. Okay. When the president said, I'm putting my presence on the line.
So are you able to, juxtapose it with the time previous government and say that within that, our land size, maybe 40,000 hectares of land was destroyed. And then in this government, 60,000. Then in this government, it's 80,000. Then we're having a conversation.
No, but I'm not doing a comparison. I'm talking about...
No, it's not about comparison. You're saying that they've failed, so yes. You need to peg it against something.
No, you don't have to. The president set his own target, which is he's going to deal with this problem, and he's putting his own presence in the line. So you judge him by that. So as we speak tonight, he hasn't achieved that objective.
Were they timelines?
Say again?
Were there timelines?
No, he gave himself his own timeline. He's putting his presidency on the line.
To deal with the matter.
Yes,
okay.
and he had
that was a figure of speech, right?
It wasn't. It was very specific. In his first term, he failed to deliver that. Of speech. In his first term, he failed to deliver that. In his second term, we're having this conversation
but that was a figure of speech, wasn't it?
When you say figure of speech, what do you mean?
That I'm going to put my presidency...
No, it wasn't figure of speech. He was clear that if I have to lose elections because of this. That's what he meant. It was very specific.
It doesn't mean
he will
that,
do it to win the war.
Okay, let's carry on. But for me, it was a figure of speech, meaning that I want to deal with this matter.
Yeah, which hasn't happened.
No. So, Evans, if you allow me to finish a sentence, then I'll be making some sense. You know what I mean? So, what I'm trying to say is that there's no empirical evidence saying that Galamsey, has been there for 10 years in one country, so dealing with it would be 15 years. What the president did was that I need to deal with this problem. So he formed an inter-ministerial committee a mandate was given. So within the mandate,
And the committee failed.
No, so let me finish. So within the mandate, what was the mandate of the committee? What did the committee do?
Did you deliver on your mandate?
Yes, we did. Verification of licenses, because hitherto...
So why is the committee not there again?
So if you allow me to...
No, I mean, it's a simple question.
So I'm talking about mandate now.
Yes.
Okay, so when I get to the mandate and I conclude, then you can ask me questions, all right? So what I'm trying to say is that, now, verification of licenses. Hitherto, when we came into power, one license owns about 5 concessions. That was cleaned, okay? 4,000 miners were trained in 4,500. And then there was community mining. So community mining, you see, it's not so good. But it was a starting point. So all the parameters that has been put there, you and I, have to monitor it and ensure that it is. And that is why we're having this conversation today.
I put it to you fundamentally. Yeah. Your job was to stop illegal mining.
No. Our job was to sanitize and restructure the artisanal and small-scale mining sector.
True. So, but to stop Galamsey. It was a primary one. Primary expectation was
Evans, it's a process.
Do all that.
That
will lead to one,
a process that would lead
the turbidity of the water will improve.
No, I was a secretary, so
as we speak,
it appears that you were my deputy secretary. Then.
No, I mean,
so I'm giving you the mandate.
I get the mandate that was written, but if all that.
So do you know the mandate? Can you tell your viewers the mandate now?
No,
Evans, can you tell the viewers your mandate now?
So
I have it here. I can tell you.
Frimpong, forget about my word. Frimpong Boateng was your boss.
Yes.
In his report, it says you guys that in terms of illegal mining. You didn't achieve that objective.
Where did he say that?
That's what we've been talking about for the last 1 hour.
This is a report. I said most of the things that he said in there were right. If I sit here and I say that they're wrong, then I do not want this country to progress. In that spirit, okay, what I'm trying to say is that the mandate given the Inter-ministerial Committee, yes, we achieved some of them, but there were no timelines. It was an ad hoc committee. Within that, we had agencies, EPA, Minerals Commission, they were creation of parliament. Okay, so our job was to ensure that the things that they've taken their eye off the ball from, they come back into place. And that's what we did.
Just one other time, I say finally, do you think that committee should be reactivated?
No, it was an ad hoc one, so I'm not the one to do that.
But I'm not saying whether you should. I mean, just as part of maybe re-energizing the fight, should it be brought back?
I haven't thought of that, but what I think going forward is that these agencies, the regulatory agencies, must be looked at. And to deal with the matter, we can actually come out and form maybe 20 committees. But if we do not change our attitudes, the civil servant in there, because the civil servant, once the government comes out with a policy, there's a civil servant there trying to sabotage it. Okay, there's a journalist trying to actually stop what you're doing. There's a pastor. So our attitude is what I am talking about.
Okay.
The responsibility given us, we must be accountable
Charles,
for what we do.
Thank you very much for coming. Ken Ashibe, thank you. Dr. Ken Ashibe, thank you also for coming. This is a head scratcher. A head scratcher when you're dealing with illegal mining matters. Enjoy the rest of your evening.